The entertainment world is buzzing again, but this time, it's not because of a new movie, a fresh dance routine, or a viral motorcycle clip. It's because of something far more personal and unexpected. Wang Yibo has fired his manager. Yes, you heard that right. The calm, collected, and usually private Yibo made a decision that sent shockwaves through the entire entertainment industry. A decision that revealed more about loyalty, pressure, and betrayal than anyone could have imagined. It all started one cold evening in Beijing, when Yibo walked out of a rehearsal hall, drenched in sweat and silence. He had just finished 10 straight hours of dance practice for an upcoming performance, but his phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Message after message. Paparazzi leaks. Rumors spreading like wildfire. And somehow, the only person who could have had access to that private rehearsal footage was the one man he trusted the most, his manager, Chen Liwei. Inside his car, the city lights reflected off the tinted glass as Yibo scrolled through the headlines. Wang Yibo's attitude questioned on set. Crew member says Yibo storms off during rehearsal. Is fame getting to him? Every article carried a slightly different version of the truth, but one thing remained the same. Someone had leaked it. Someone close. Someone who knew everything. Yibo sat in silence for a long minute, his reflection flickering across the window. He clenched his jaw, the echoes of betrayal slowly sinking in. This wasn't just a random rumor. It was a hit from the inside. The next morning, Yibo arrived at the studio earlier than anyone expected. The air was heavy. He walked straight into the meeting room, where Chen was already on the phone, his voice sharp, discussing damage control. He looked up when Yibo entered, forced a smile, and said, "Ah, Yibo, I was just about to call you. Don't worry, I'm handling everything." Yibo didn't speak at first. He simply stared at him, his eyes calm but piercing, the kind of look that made silence feel like thunder. "Handling everything?" Yibo finally said. "Then tell me how this footage got out." Chen froze for half a second, then tried to regain his composure. "You know how these things go. The staff, the media, someone must have." "Stop," Yibo interrupted, his voice low but firm. "That video was taken from my personal practice cam. Only you had the password." The room fell dead silent. You could almost hear the air tighten between them. Chen tried to laugh it off. "Yibo, you're tired. You've been overworked. Maybe you're just mistaken." "I don't make mistakes about trust," Yibo said coldly. It wasn't anger that scared Chen. It was the stillness. Yibo's expression didn't move, his tone didn't rise. But the disappointment in his voice was like glass breaking quietly, piece by piece. For years, Chen had been more than just a manager. He was the gatekeeper, the strategist, the one who stood by Yibo from his early career days, when fans barely knew his name. They had built everything together, the fame, the brand, the power. But fame changes people. Somewhere between the flashing cameras and sold-out tours, loyalty turned into greed. Reports later claimed that Chen had made secret deals with certain tabloids, feeding them minor scandals in exchange for favorable coverage elsewhere, all to keep Yibo trending. In his mind, it was a marketing strategy. But to Yibo, it was betrayal. That night, Yibo called for an emergency meeting with his legal team. No drama, no shouting, just quiet precision. Contracts were reviewed, clauses invoked. Within hours, the decision was official. The next morning, the entertainment world woke up to the headline. Wang Yibo terminates longtime manager over breach of trust. Fans were stunned. Some didn't believe it. Others suspected there was more to the story. But Yibo stayed silent. No social media post. No interview. Just silence. The kind that said everything without a single word. Behind closed doors, though, the tension exploded. Chen barged into Yibo's apartment days later, desperate to explain. "You're making a mistake. Everything I did was for your career. You think you'd be where you are without me?" he shouted, his voice shaking. Yibo stood near the window, looking out at the Beijing skyline. He didn't turn around. "You did help me," he said softly. "But somewhere along the line, you started helping yourself more." Chen stepped closer, his tone shifting from pleading to bitter. "You think people care about your truth? They only care about your image. I protected that image, even when you want to throw it all away for your so-called authenticity. Yibo finally turned, his eyes blazing. Then maybe I'd rather lose the image than lose myself. Those words hit harder than any shout could. Chen stared at him, speechless, realizing it was over. Completely, irreversibly over. Within days, Chen's name was removed from Yibo's professional listings. The new management team took over quietly. But the aftershock continued. A storm of speculation, gossip, and endless debates across fan forums and entertainment sites. Everyone wanted to know what really happened between them. Weeks later, Yibo finally broke his silence, but not with words. He posted a photo on Weibo, a single black and white shot of his motorbike parked under a streetlight, captioned with just 2 words. New road. It wasn't just symbolism. It was a statement. Behind the scenes, Yibo poured all that energy, all that quiet fury and heartbreak into his work. His next film shoot became legendary. His performance was darker, sharper, more real than ever before. Crew members whispered that something had changed in him, that he'd shed a layer of innocence and replaced it with raw focus. One assistant even described a scene where Yibo, after nailing a particularly emotional take, stayed still long after the director yelled cut. His eyes glistened, not from acting, but from something deeper, a kind of mourning for the trust he'd lost. Fans could feel it too. His next stage performance went viral. Every movement carried a new weight. Every glance felt like a story. The audience didn't just see Wang Yibo the star. They saw Wang Yibo the human, scarred but standing taller. Industry insiders started calling it his Rebirth era. Rumors of new collaborations spread fast. Global brands approached him, drawn by his authenticity. But Yibo stayed cautious, no longer blinded by glamour, no longer quick to trust. Months later, Chen resurfaced in a quiet interview. His voice was calmer, almost regretful. I didn't realize how much I'd lost until it was gone, he said. He was more than my artist. He was like a brother. And I let greed ruin that. The clip went viral, of course. Some fans sympathized, others were unforgiving. But Yibo never responded. When asked in an interview about the fallout, he simply smiled and said, "Sometimes, peace means letting go, not out of anger, but out of respect for yourself." That single quote became iconic, reposted thousands of times, printed on fan banners, and quoted in interviews. Because in those few words, Yibo captured something everyone could relate to, the courage it takes to walk away, even from people you once called family. The storm had only just begun. The moment Wang Yibo fired his longtime manager, Chen Liwei, the entertainment world went into chaos. Reporters camped outside his studio, fans argued online, and every media outlet tried to uncover what really happened behind the elegant smile of the usually calm superstar. But inside Yibo's world, silence reigned. The kind of silence that felt loud, heavy, emotional, and full of thoughts that had no words. For years, Yibo had been loyal to Chen. He trusted him with everything: his career, his secrets, his peace. Chen was the one who stood by his side when the world doubted him, who helped him navigate fame when he was still learning to smile through flashing cameras. But now, Yibo couldn't shake the image of betrayal, the cold truth that the one person he trusted most had sold his private life for a headline. That evening, Yibo sat alone in his living room, surrounded by half-finished scripts and empty coffee cups. The city lights flickered outside, painting streaks of silver across the glass walls. His phone kept buzzing with calls, journalists, PR teams, sponsors, but he ignored them all. He replayed the moment in the meeting room when he confronted Chen. The look of shock, the defensive tone, the half-hearted excuses. Every second felt carved into his memory like a scar. But beneath the anger, there was something deeper: sadness. Not just because of the betrayal, but because of the history, the laughter, the trust, the friendship that once felt unbreakable. Hours passed, but Yibo couldn't rest. His thoughts spiraled, his chest heavy. He walked to the balcony, letting the cold night air hit his face. Down below, the streets buzzed with life, cars honking, neon lights glowing. Yet up there, he felt detached, like a man standing at the edge of two worlds, the one he'd built with trust and the one he'd have to face alone. Suddenly, a soft knock broke the stillness. It was his new assistant, May. She looked nervous, holding an envelope in her hand. "Yibo, this was delivered to the office today," she said softly. He took it and opened it carefully. Inside was a note, handwritten, shaky, emotional. It was from Chen. "I didn't mean to hurt you. Everything I did was for your career. I thought I was protecting you. I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know you were like family to me." Yibo read it in silence, the words echoing painfully in his chest. He folded the paper, staring at it for a long moment before placing it on the table. He whispered to himself, "If it was for me, why does it feel like it destroyed everything we built?" Later that night, he sat by the piano, his fingers brushing softly over the keys. Music had always been his escape, the place where he could translate emotions words couldn't capture. Slowly, he began to play, soft, haunting notes filling the room. It was a melody full of ache and memory, a sound that spoke of betrayal and release. The next morning, Yibo's team tried to convince him to issue a statement, to calm the media storm. But he refused. "The truth doesn't need defending," he said quietly. "Time will tell." Meanwhile, Chen faced his own downfall. Brands that once called him for deals now avoided his name. Gossip sites dug deep into his past, twisting every detail for clicks. Overnight, he went from a respected manager to a controversial figure. Yet, deep inside, Chen wasn't angry at the world. He was angry at himself. He replayed that confrontation over and over. Yibo's voice, his steady eyes, the disappointment that cut deeper than any insult. He realized too late that he hadn't just lost his job. He'd lost a bond that could never be rebuilt. Days turned into weeks. Yibo focused on his work, rehearsals, shoots, recordings. But his energy was different now. Sharper, stronger. Every move he made on stage carried an emotional depth that fans could feel. At a live concert, when he performed a ballad under a single spotlight, tears glimmered in his eyes. His voice cracked slightly on one note, not from exhaustion, but from memory. The audience didn't know, but that song had been written during the chaos, a quiet goodbye to the chapter he closed. After the show, back in his dressing room, he looked into the mirror. The reflection staring back wasn't the same boy who once needed someone to manage his path. It was a man who had learned the hardest lesson of fame, that success means nothing if trust is lost along the way. He whispered to himself, no one can betray what they no longer control. But destiny had one last twist. A month later, Yibo attended an awards ceremony. Elegant suit, confident stride, calm eyes. Cameras flashed endlessly as he walked the red carpet. The crowd screamed his name, reporters shouted questions, but Yibo smiled softly and waved. As he stepped inside, his eyes caught a familiar figure standing in the corner of the lobby. Chen, dressed simply, expression humble, eyes full of regret. For a brief second, time froze. Their gazes met, not with anger, not with hatred, but with quiet understanding. Chen gave a small nod, almost like a silent apology. Yibo held his stare for a moment, then returned the nod before walking away. That one gesture spoke louder than any words. No forgiveness, no reunion, just closure. Later that night, when Yibo accepted an award on stage, his speech was short but powerful. In this journey, I've learned that sometimes losing someone is what helps you find yourself. To everyone who stood by me, thank you. And to those who didn't, thank you too. Because pain teaches truth. The crowd erupted into applause. Fans online called it the speech of the year. And in that moment, Wang Yibo wasn't just a star. He was an inspiration. He walked off stage with his head high, his heart finally at peace. No more shadows, no more doubt, just clarity. Outside the venue, the night air was cool and gentle. The city that once buzzed with gossip now felt quiet, calm, almost approving. Yibo looked up at the sky and smiled faintly. He wasn't angry anymore. He wasn't hurt. He was simply free. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't revenge. It's rising so high that the noise below can't reach you anymore. And that's exactly what Wang Yibo did. From betrayal to rebirth. From pain to power. The fire didn't destroy him. It forged him. Sparkles the end sparkles. Clapperboard if you love this emotional continuation of Wang Yibo's shocking story. The betrayal, the growth, and the transformation. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel.